Start the meeting of the Board of Appeals. I see we have Greg and Jim and Tommy. We do not have Noel as of yet. We have any word from him, Paul?
I haven't heard anything, no.
Okay. All right, we'll start the meeting. First of all, does anyone, any of the four of us have any objections to the agenda that we have before us tonight?
No objection.
No.
All right, why don't we proceed to the minutes from the last meeting? Anybody have any changes to make? Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
I'll move to accept the minutes as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made to accept the minutes from the last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, we have the minutes approved from the last meeting. We should open the floor for discussion. I'll take a motion for that.
Yeah, I'll motion to open the floor for potential discussion.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the floor is open for discussion. We should start out with a few things that we normally talk about at the beginning. Did anybody visit any of the properties before us tonight?
No.
No.
I'll take that as a no from everyone. Did any of you speak with anyone regarding the variance requests or other agenda items before us tonight?
No.
No.
All right. Do any of you believe you will have to abstain from voting on any of the issues tonight?
No.
No.
Good. All right, 4 people of the board is sufficient. We can start in. Anybody have any discussions or comments to make before we start with our regular business? All right, we shall move along. We'll start out with Mr. Jennings, who will talk to us about the gastropub. And Paul, I believe you can set the stage for us.
Yes. Thank you. Am I still better? Feedback. It's off now. Sorry, we're just having a feedback problem. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. I think we're still experiencing some feedback.
You're muted.
I turned it off.
Is this in Zoom? Are you muted? Try that now.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Better.
I can.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Sorry about that. We are set up in the council chambers, so we're kind of learning our way here. So, thank you. Yes. So this request is an appeal, I guess, of the interpretation of the zoning administrator regarding a sign that is located at 200 Dallasman Street, which is the former Titletown restaurant and brewery. Let me see if I can. You can see the property on the map. This is an elevation of the west side of the building. We received a sign application on June 9th to replace the sign that is the depot on top. And the interpretation of the zoning administrator at that time, based on the zoning, is that that is considered a rooftop sign. So we were not able to, as staff, issue a sign permit to replace that. So in essence, the sign becomes a non-conforming sign. It can be maintained, it could remain, but because it is being totally removed from the site, or off the building cannot be replaced because it's a roof sign. So in the zoning code, roof signs are defined as a sign which is mounted on the roof of a building or which projects above the top of the wall of a building with a flat gambrel, gable, or hip roof, or the deck line of a building with a mansard roof. In this case, we felt the sign cannot be replaced because it is a roof-mounted type sign on the gable end of the building. This property is also listed as a historic structure, both federally, on the state and local level. I did have some concurrence from our chief building official that this is part of the roof structure, and our recommendation would be denial of the interpretation that the sign could remain as such.
Paul, did you, there's two sign requests before us, or at least in the appeal. I understand your opposition to the roof-mounted sign. Did you also have opposition to the other one, or are we not considering that?
We are not considering, the board is not considering that. That is a separate issue that has been dealt with through the Department of Public Works because it's actually on public right-of-way. So it's just strictly the sign attached to the building.
Okay, and the sign that is being, I think, repainted to say restaurant, that is also not really something we're worried about?
Correct, right. That is considered a wall sign in our mind.
So just to be clear, this isn't a variance request as much as it's an appeal to the board for the interpretation of the zoning administrator that we have a rooftop sign that is proposed to be replaced, and because it is proposed to be replaced, it falls under the new ordinance and therefore would be not allowed.
Correct. I don't know that it's a new ordinance. I think that requirement's been on the books for quite a while. And I also failed to mention that permits were issued for this sign on two different occasions in both 2016 and I think 2019.
Yes, yes.
You know, in those cases, as a zoning administrator, would not have released that permit. So that I just want to clarify that there were permits, and this sign was installed so-called correctly in the past. It wasn't done illegally, except now with the reinstallation as a zoning administrator, I'm saying that that's not permissible.
Okay. Okay, we'll hear from Mr. Jennings.
Well, yeah, and Paul did say that we applied for a permit for Titletown back in August of 16. That was released and passed by Mark Lyons, the inspector at the time. However, Titletown delayed the process. We ended up, it came back to life again last year, and it was issued again on June 3rd of 19. Well, obviously, Titletown has closed their doors, and they have a new owner, and that would be Robert, and then obviously the name of the business is Depot Gastropub. Now, obviously, replacing that sign is kind of important to the new owner for business identification. Yes, it's a historic a monument, so to speak, but you know, I'm sure he bought the building thinking, oh gosh, we got, you know, good areas for signage, good visibility. You have the monument sign that's on the street, but it's not the best viewed from ground level. Yeah, he wants to update everything, but this is a very important sign. And, you know, it could hurt business if he doesn't have the proper identification. And we just thought, since, you know, it's been issued twice, you know, it should have been caught 4 years ago, and it should have been caught a year ago. And now the customer, the new tenant of the building, is basically getting penalized by it. And I don't think that's very fair, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion. And just, you know, square footage wise, this sign is a little bit smaller than the previous one. The Titletown sign was almost 27 square feet. This one's just over 24. So, you know, we're thinking this would not hurt or deter from the appearance of the building at all. If there's another alternative, if we can't remove that sign, I'm thinking, well, we use that cabinet and just put the Depot Gastropub inside that existing cabinet. We could probably find a way to do that, if that would be the ultimate decision.
Paul, could you explain that picture that you put up? But there's no sign there. I guess I'm confused.
Right.
Well, not in that one, but there is in the artwork that you had, the previous one.
I guess my question is there a sign there now as we sit here?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
One of the complaints that I believe Paul based his decision on is that there's a sign that would be replaced, and now you're offering the possibility that
Well, I'm just looking
sign
at
could
that.
be not moved.
Yeah, I'm just looking at that as an alternative instead of building a new cabinet to replace the Titletown sign at the top of the gable. If that sign, I mean, if we're not going to be able to use the sign that we proposed, I'm suggesting that, well, we use that same cabinet and we could somehow make faces that'll fit inside that cabinet if that's what we have to do. But to be honest with you, it doesn't, have the same shape as the monument sign out in front, because it goes along with that angle with the ribbon and the circle. But if we had to, if worse came to worse, we could play with the cabinet.
Okay, I'll note that Noel is with us. So gentlemen, do you have any questions of the applicant?
I want to make sure I understand the last comment. I'm just a little confused that if a cabinet, what are we talking about with a cabinet?
Well, the sign, okay, is built like a cabinet. It's about 4 to 5 to sometimes 6 inches deep. There are LEDs inside that cabinet with a translucent face, so the light shines through. We could change the faces if need be. If we can't take down that cabinet, we could change the faces and put a new Depot Gastropub in the faces of that existing Titletown sign that's at the top of the gable. However, obviously, we'd still like to have the new cabinet so it conforms with the shape of the Depot Gastropub logo. But if worse came to worse and we had to change just the look of the Depot Gastropub face, we could probably fit something in that cabinet that's currently there.
Paul, would that be considered okay if they just change what's already there? Or is that basically putting up a new sign?
No, that's possible. So the sign at this point would be considered non-conforming, so the cabinet itself could remain. We call them face changes, so they could literally change the face of it without needing a permit. The point here is that they applied to install a new cabinet, a new sign in essence, so that was the reason for my refusal of the permit.
Got it. One more question. Have there been any, we always like to look at alternative looks. So has there been any other alternative ways to approach this situation? We look at it and say, okay, cool. No other opportunity to do this exists. And so that's why this makes the most sense. Has there been other alternatives looked at? Placement for that sign that would be conforming on the front of the building?
No, originally we just thought, well, because there's a sign there, it was approved twice before, we could replace the cabinet with the new one. That's what the original thinking was. And we're still hoping that because, granted, the city has a different definition of the roof structure. Well, I've been in this business quite a while, and that's not considered a roof structure in everything that I've dealt with. That's the gable. And that's where the disagreement comes from.
Paul, is this a variance request or something different? Because I don't see an application, and what are we doing with this one?
Yeah, so it's basically a ruling on my interpretation by the board. So I provided a response to the applicant that we could not issue the permit for the sign replacement. They obviously did not care for that determination, so their recourse is to come to the board and to dispute my interpretation, I guess, or to seek a higher level of interpretation from the board.
Okay.
So it's not a traditional variance, it's an interpretation issue here. So again, staff's gonna interpret that this is a roof sign. I think the applicant's saying, well, no, it's not, it's something else.
Yeah, could you go into that a little bit, Paul, on how this is considered a roof sign? And I believe you made the comment that all roof signs are verboten. I'd like to know a little bit more about it. Plus, if there's any issues that need to be explored or considered regarding the historic building.
Sure. Well, how could I answer? Well, so our interpretation is it's part of the roof. It's part of the roof system. So, with, again, the comments from the chief building official, which should have been included in your report, it's part of the roof system. It's not part of the building itself. And the code simply prohibits rooftop signage. It's part and parcel of the roof system.
And how about for the historic building? Is that an issue here that we need to consider?
I think it's more or less for your information. I think the point is that this was not part of the original historic structure, the signage.
I don't think that roof was part of the original historic structure.
I think you're correct. I think that was an addition at one point, yes.
So
We're really here to figure out whether we agree with your interpretation that front part of where the sign is now is roof or not.
well, I guess I'd maybe beg to differ a little bit, Mr. Chairman, just to say, really what I think we're here to do is to ascertain whether, past interpretations or approvals or other things, should be granted. And I guess in some respects, my question is, if we've got a previously permitted sign for a previous business that was operating a similar business at the site, and the new owner wants to have a darn near identical signage for their business that's slightly smaller total square footage installed in the same locations, what's to stop us from doing that? Why would that not be okay, for that building, for this community, for the site? And what do we need to do if, we were to feel that that's the case or not? What do we need to do in terms of action to either permit or prohibit that from happening?
Good observation. Paul, did you have a comment to that?
I do not. No, I think ours is rather black and white description. It's unfortunate that a sign permit on 2 occasions was released. Again, as the zoning administrator, I did not want to let that go to pass by for a third time, so to speak. So I wanted to be transparent with that to the applicant and now to the board, that it is a roof sign in our mind.
So
Well, to continue Noel's point, I believe that he's raising the possibility that we need to consider the implications of it going through the process for better or for worse twice. And I guess we need to know, maybe I'm the only one who's confused, but what review was entailed by those first 2 approvals, and basically how did they get by?
I don't know. Those were done by 2 different planners at the time. I was not involved in those decisions.
Okay.
They maybe felt it was part of the wall. When I received the application and looked at it, to me it was very clear that this was part of the roof system. It is on the gable end, which is part of the roof. So unfortunately, I can't speak for the planners who issued those permits. Again, that's unfortunate, but we did not want to just simply pass this along for a third time.
Yeah. And Mr. Chairman, I guess I would think from my perspective, I wouldn't necessarily want to have us, overturn the zoning administrator's interpretation of what's a roof structure or not. I think that's, the expert knowledge of staff that we need to rely on as a community. I guess in this circumstance, just looking at the signage, can we in fact act in some way tonight to allow that signage to persist or to be adapted as the petitioner would like to see it go, and not speak at all about interpretations of gables as to whether or not they're roofs or building or what have you.
All right, I think that's well put, Noel. You're encouraging us to not try to pass judgment on what's a roof or not. You may be encouraging us also to consider the past processes of what's gone on in this. Am I putting words in your mouth to suggest that may be a possibility for us to consider our review?
Yeah, I don't see I don't see a detrimental impact to our community to maintain signs in a similar configuration as they've been existing for years on a building, and in fact the new signage actually looks a little bit more like the old railroad signs than even the Titletown signs did. So
Yeah.
I mean I'm inclined to want to find a way to let the people who are trying to redevelop this property have what they're looking to have without saying, staff made a mistake or anything like that. I think staff's probably done the right thing this time through in terms of their interpretation relative to the code. I just want to allow the petitioner to have their way regardless.
Okay,
Because it seems the right thing to do.
I think I understand where you're going from. It's possible we may vote in agreement for different reasons, but we don't need to get into that. Greg or Tommy or Jim, did you have any other comments, questions?
Go ahead, Jim.
The only question I have, is there any safety issue with allowing this cabinet to be put on there?
Are you asking me that?
Paul.
I'm not aware of any safety issues, no.
Okay.
I would just caution that this is an interpretation, this is not a variance. So this is an interpretation that could be used going forward. So sometimes we talk about precedent, and this could be a precedent about rooftop signs. So I want to make that clear to the board as well.
Yeah, and that was what I was trying to get at with some of my comments. I wonder if there's a way, Paul, is there a way we can take action tonight as a board to grant a variance where one hasn't been asked for, rather than ruling on overturning your interpretation?
Typically, the board addresses dimensional issues and interpretations. So I don't know that you can grant a variance for what in essence is a use issue. It clearly states in the code that roof signs are not permitted. So I don't know that the board has the authority to say, well, we can now allow roof signs. So again, I think from staff's perspective, it really boils down to, is this a roof sign or not? Again, there are some nonconformities built into this sign that could allow the sign to remain, except it would be a face change, not a complete cabinet change. At some point, the idea is that maybe that nonconformity goes away. Maybe the sign goes away, possibly. But in the short term, the solution is a face change. Maybe not optimal for the property owner or the applicant, but that is the option.
From my perspective, board, it's a pretty simple issue. It's interpretation versus a variance. They haven't requested a variance, and I don't think it's our job to do that here. And I think it's clearly a roof sign, and I would just vote to deny. I think my vote's going to be no, because I think Paul's got it right. I think we're getting too complicated with it, to be honest with you.
Tommy or Jim? Where do you stand?
I'm with Greg on this one.
Jim?
Man, make a decision, I'm still right in the middle. I can see both. I don't think we want to sit it here out of the blue. You know, we'd want to take a longer time to discuss something if we're going to set a precedent. On the other hand, you know, I think a sign's been there and it's historically been there, and I've been in the building many times, and you'd almost expect the sign to be there. And maybe, I guess the precedent thing is wearing on me. So I guess I'm inclined to go with Tom and Greg.
Let me explore it a little more here. Because I know that Noel was raising the proposal that we not try to criticize or in any way second guess the decisions that were made before. But I guess what my comment would be is that they were made. And maybe, Paul, you can help me understand what implications came with those approvals and how strong the implications should be, or whatever I should draw from those approvals.
Well, again,
An
I
argument
can't,
could be made that those approvals imply that the petitioner had a reasonable assurance, perhaps is too strong a word, but a reasonable expectation that whatever had been approved before, in fact, twice, would be acceptable in this case.
well, I think every case is different. Again, I can't speak for the inspectors who issued the permits. Again, I would not have done that as a zoning administrator. Again, there is not precedent for the sign. I mean, if Titletown Brewery had remained there, there would be no question. We wouldn't be having this discussion because it'd still be in business. The sign would still be up. The issue now is that the game has changed, so to speak, in the sense that the sign is changing, the cabinet is changing. You know, three wrongs don't make a right, I guess. So again, I think that's why staff wanted to be transparent about this. I mean, we can't go on past permits that were issued. I mean, those permits were issued, they were fulfilled. This is nothing against the applicant. They certainly followed the rules and did a professional job. Unfortunately, on the third occasion, you know, we can't issue that permit because of a new interpretation. And I think that's why, again, this is before the board, to review that interpretation, make sure that that's correct and consistent, not just on this property, but throughout the community.
That's right, but I'll just point out that there has been a case in case law. I'm no attorney, so don't take this too far. But one of the things that we were taught in one of our little sessions was that mistakes or oversight or whatever by previous administrators or city employees would be something that we should take into account. And if someone was harmed in some way or would be harmed in the future in some way by whatever decisions, right or wrong, were made in the past, that we did not have to ignore those, but we could take those into account in our consideration. In this case, I guess I'll take an opposite approach. I'm of the opinion that we would overturn the decision of the zoning administrator, not because of his interpretation of the sign or what's a roof or not, but I would say I would recommend overturning it because of the implications of those two permits being granted in the past. And I just understand the concern of the applicant that he had every reason to expect that whatever he was proposing to do here would be granted because of what's happened before, relatively recently and twice.
Right.
Okay, that's my little comment.
I've got one more question for Paul on this. Paul, if this sign, that Depot Gastropub sign that we're talking about here at the end of that gable, if it were actually mounted to the masonry structure, but, with some sort of armature was up in front of that gable end, but not actually affixed to it. Would there be a path for approval in your mind?
Right, so rooftop signs themselves are not permitted by right, but there are signs that project above the roof line. The code says 18 inches is the max height. So I think Hagemeister on Washington is probably a good example of that on their entrance, where it's not a roof sign, but it's a wall sign that projects probably about 18 inches up. So they could do that. They could attach it to the wall. It's just the problem here is it's attached to the roof structure.
I understand. I'm just wondering if they could get the same effect if it were mounted, and then I would obviously follow that well with a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other argument and let it go, right? I don't know if we're going to sway everybody in here just for the sake of moving the conversation along, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to make a motion to overturn, unfortunately, because I don't see another path forward, to overturn the interpretation of staff and allow the sign change based on the precedent of past approvals.
Do we have a second? If not, I will second Noel's motion. So we have a motion placed before us, made by Noel, seconded by me, to overturn the decision of the zoning administrator in the case of the gastro pub. Does everyone understand what we're voting on? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
No.
I heard 3 noes. Is that correct?
Yeah.
All right. We have sustained by a 2-3 vote the decision of the zoning administrator in the case of the gastropub sign.
Do we need to take an active vote to deny the request, or is the failure of overturn sufficient?
I think
guess
it's sufficient.
Okay.
Paul? Hello, Paul?
You there, Paul?
He's muted.
He's muted. Okay. I will give him a phone call. I had some other thoughts. We can change the face on that sign that's already on the gable, but I'm just wondering, and I'll talk to the business owner about it, maybe putting the gastropub wall sign where that restaurant sign is, and then maybe move the restaurant sign below the windows. That might be a possibility. And that way everything will be on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm shown as muted, but I'm not muted. So, I mean, those
Sorry.
are other
Does that
options
sound
we
like a
can explore.
possibility, Paul?
I think so, sure, yeah.
Okay. I will get with the owner. We'll discuss that and we'll come up with a new art design for you and new placement.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen.
You.
We'll move on to the next item. The property at 1265 Rockdale, Brian Johnson and Lisa Hartman. And Paul, do you want to set us up on this one?
Sure, this is a property on the west side of Green Bay, a single-family home, zone low-density residential. Just going through some of the graphics that were provided by the applicant. I have to be honest, there are some not a real complete application here necessarily. Their plans are to remove an existing garage and to rebuild that garage. The issue is the side yard setback and the overall size of the garage with the principal use.
Okay. So the applicant is proposing a new garage with a within 5 feet of the property line, and the code would say what?
8 feet.
Okay. All right. Let the applicant talk about what he's proposing and why he needs a variance.
Looking to build a bigger garage. I have a full-size pickup truck and a minivan. And right now the garage is 20 and a half feet wide, 21 feet deep. And even with absolutely nothing in there, the truck doesn't even fit because of the length. Looking to go a little side by side without having to run into each other. And for the depth, we have 3 kids, so we have all their outside toys and stuff. We also have a pool, as you can see in the one drawing. And so we were looking to add a bathroom into the garage also with being out in the pool. And I was automotive mechanic for 20 years, so I have a lot of tools that I need storage for. So that's why I'm looking to go to the size that I am. And with 3 kids, I mean, and within a couple of years, they're going to be driving, so I'm going to have more vehicles.
Yeah, that's a good drawing right there. How deep how big a garage can he build without going past the size of his house? Have we determined that?
We have not. Again, I think it's somewhat incomplete. We don't have a lot of numbers associated with this, so the board may seek additional information from the applicant. Again, the pool wasn't shown before, so I would think you'd want additional information to understand that relationship.
Okay. Any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, I was trying to figure out the dimensions based on the drawing. Is my audio okay?
It's really,
It's really jumbled on my side. But anyway, what are the dimensions of the house? Because that's one of the variances. The setback on the side, and also the accessory structure is bigger than the principal structure. Is that correct, Paul?
That is
No,
correct.
Size-wise, I thought it was just a hair smaller when I did the figuring for square footage.
So is that what you were saying, Paul? We just need more clarity with the actual physical dimensions?
Yes, correct.
Do you have those dimensions? If it's a little unclear to us?
I do. I don't have them right with me though. I thought I had that all written on that one drawing, like the size of the house.
Yeah. Could you put that up again, Paul? We can do some numbers here.
Yeah, based on what I'm reading, if this is accurate, it's about 300 square feet bigger. Does that sound correct? Because it says 45 by 22, or 22 even?
22 even. Yeah, and then the house is 36.6 by 20.
Oh, that's a 36?
Yeah.
Okay, so 936.
Yeah, I get 32 square feet. It's like the same thing. It's very close. Did I calculate that right?
Yeah, 936 is the house. The garage is 990, so about 60 something, 54-ish. Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
So instead of a 45-foot garage, he could have a 42 or something. Is that what we're arguing about here?
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things I always look at, like I mentioned earlier, again, I'll log off and come back in if it's my audio that's really, really bad. But, are there alternative options to make it compliant? The side setback, to me, for me, right out of the gate, I can hear that argument. The length isn't something that is a want, not a need, and the property, not the use of the property, but the property itself is allowing conformity. And so to me, if that can be conformed, and then we debate the side setback, which I think there's an issue to be made, there's a case to be made there, then I'm more apt to go yes to approve. We can reduce the backside of that a little bit to get it so it's not bigger than the principal.
What I'd like to do is if I could just mute everybody except the board members so I can see if I can find out if there's a problem. So just bear with me for a second.
All right, this is me.
This is me.
Don.
Okay.
I don't hear the relay thing going anymore.
Yeah, I don't hear it either.
All right.
So anyway, yeah, that's my kind of where I'm digging in right away is, where my brain's going. The side setback, I'm apt to hear the case there. It makes sense. The length, if you reduce that a little bit, you still got, a garage width and some depth, but we can make it conform based on where it's at.
That's where I am too, Tommy. I can see definitely the point to make it a wider garage just because it's a little bit too narrow right now. But I don't see the need for us granting a variance on the extreme depth of the garage, and I would withhold that one and just grant the variance on the side. Other comments, gentlemen?
I agree. I think that's the reasonable thing to do under the circumstances because it still gives them a big garage, but it gives them enough room to fit a couple cars in. So
Yeah.
I'm on board with that.
All right, a motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the side setback and then deny the variance for the accessory structure size. Yeah. We can do that together in one motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, without waltzing past Noel and Jim, did you have any comments or thoughts on this?
Just a question on the length. What's guiding, that area has to be less than the house?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep. If you brought it down, for example, to 42,
yeah,
it would work.
gotcha.
With the width and the depth, it would be like a couple feet under the principal. And so they just
Okay,
use
I'm
3
on board with that.
Okay.
So-
Okay, then we have,
Oh, question.
yes, sir, go ahead.
Can I just go ahead and say that I'll do the 42 so that it can all get passed, or?
Well, if you do 42, it would not need a variance because it would comply. So the only variance it would then need would be just the side setback.
Right.
Yeah,
What we'll do, sir, is deny the variance request for the depth of your garage. So you would have to then be compliant with that part of the ordinance, but we would give you an ordinance on 5 feet.
Okay.
Am I the culprit on the noise?
I'm not sure.
Anyway,
might be.
I don't think it's you. I don't think it's you, Don, because you talked before. It wasn't. I don't know if something unmuted here.
now it's happening again, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, I think we're ready to go. We've got a motion made and seconded to grant the variance on the side and deny the variance for the excessive size of the garage. Understood? All in favor?
I
Hi.
Any opposed? Okay, sir, did you understand the variance that we gave you?
Yeah.
Good. You're okay on the side. You just have to make it fit in the back.
Okay. And I don't have to stick around for the rest of the meeting, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
No, I got fire meetings, so.
I understand.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
He was the one with the audio problem.
Maybe it was.
I was wondering if that was him.
All right. We'll go on with the next one. This is the property at Hartman Street. You want to set it up for us, Paul?
Sure, yes. This property is located at 515 Hartung Street, just north of East Mason Street. It's a low-density residential.
You there, Paul?
Oh, am I muted? Can you hear me?
Did we lose Paul?
Paul is muted. I can see that he's muted on my
Ah.
screen. Show, there he is.
Is that better?
There we go.
Okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, set it up for us, Paul.
Sure. Well, I don't, hang on.
I think you want to unmute the other one.
Yeah.
Just adding to the technical challenges of this meeting, by the way, I lost my Civic Clerk login, and now when I tried to re-log in, it says the site's not secure, and it won't let me open up any of the PDFs. So
Really?
I lost
Wow.
access to the PDFs. It's happened a couple of times for me, but it's happening again.
Okay.
All right, Paul, are you able to set up the Hartung Street discussion?
I'm trying.
Okay.
I'm still having some problems with mute.
While he's loading that for me, just so you know, I'm having a really difficult time in Civic Clerk because the attached file is so large to scroll. I don't know if anybody else is having that issue.
Yeah.
It's very difficult for me to see the plan. So I'm going to need some help in descriptions of kind of what we're looking at. But it seems similar to some stuff that we've looked at previously that are in kind of some flood zones and stuff. So just throwing my technological obstacles out there as well.
Yeah, I agree, Tommy. It's a bandwidth problem on getting that big PDF attachment to load.
Can you hear me?
I know we've got, the system for a reason, but there may be times when it's appropriate to email the PDFs.
Yeah, it's a good thought.
Yeah, I like that. While Paul's working on that, Jessica, is that something possible that we can do for meetings for a while, and is to get an email copy of the whole? I got muted. Someone
Sorry.
muted me. Did you hear that, Jessica?
Hey, Tommy. Yeah, that's something that we can try to do.
Awesome. That would be great if you can. Thank you.
Okay, yep, no problem.
Particularly for those big ones, Jesse, the ones that, otherwise become a bandwidth problem.
Okay. We can try to work something out, and I may have to send it like in 2 parts or something so that it doesn't eat up everybody's, computers. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is the first one we've had that's this big in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll try it out.
Good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you hear me? No. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with the feedback. Hang on.
Psychedelic, man.
Yeah.
Just another thing to blame the virus for, right?
Yeah.
2020, man. Jeez.
2020.
Can you hear
The
me?
year that was a dumpster fire.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
There you
Jeez.
go.
I'm just glad Paul's working this, and it's not my responsibility to get this show,
I agree.
I'm not doing a very good job so far, so, okay.
Great.
I apologize. So,
No, that's okay.
let me get back and share the screen here. This property is located at 515 Hartung. This is a property that was damaged by a flood back in 2019, I believe. It's been condemned for quite a while. The opportunity here is to create or rebuild a new foundation for the home. With that said, they have to elevate the home and they have to provide a certain amount of fill around the structure. So this property is located within the floodplain. Typically, there needs to be 15 feet of fill, 1 foot above the base flood elevation around the structure. As you can see from the aerial photo, this map is, or this parcel is really small. So there's some challenges to doing that. The applicant did work with an engineer to provide a design to use retaining walls to, in lieu of the fill, so to speak. So there are two variances that are being considered tonight. One has to do with the fill, and I think the board has seen, a few of these in the past. They can't meet the 15 feet of fill, so they're going to use an engineered wall system, so to speak, in lieu of that, to provide protection in case of a flood event. The other issue is the height of the retaining walls, and in particular on the north side of the property. Typically, when you reduce that fill, you would do this retaining wall system, but the code talks about a maximum height of 2 feet of retaining walls, so it's kind of a step system. And it looks like they're proposing about a 4-foot wall system on the north side. So again, that's not compliant with the code, but it is a dimensional requirement that the board can consider to eliminate, I guess, or to allow a larger block wall.
Paul, just clarify that last point. You're saying it should be 2 feet and they're going to put 4 feet.
That's what it appears like from the site plan, yes.
Copy that. Okay.
So they do provide an elevation on the screen, this elevation here, if you can see. But it's this elevation, and there's not a cross-section I have to share with that, but based on the elevations, there's about a 4-foot difference. So the reason behind that in the ordinance is we don't want these sheer drop-offs, so to speak. The whole idea, even though the structure is being elevated to meet FEMA requirements, we want them to taper back to the natural grade and kind of a gentle slope. We just don't want it sticking out of the ground, so to speak. So not that this is necessarily doing that. Again, this is a tight lot. There's some real challenges here, but it doesn't meet the code for maximum retaining wall height.
That become a safety issue then, Paul? Is that basically the argument?
I don't know that it's a safety issue. I think it's more of an aesthetic issue.
Okay.
Is the drawing, it's hard, again, on my computer and here, it's hard to see, but is that wall happening because, again, like you're saying, the property line doesn't allow that tapering to occur, so it's got to be a little bit more abrupt on the side that you're talking about? Is that what we're saying? So the property itself is too squished to create what you're talking about, the aesthetically?
I think that's part of the issue, yes. Mm-hmm.
Copy that.
All right, maybe we should hear from the applicant on his thoughts on what is going on here.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. What would you like to know?
The question seems to be the need for the very high retaining wall. Is there a way around that? Is this inevitable?
It's inevitable. There's an alleyway on the north side, so we're really limited to room to do any kind of tapering or whatever. So the only way is to put the retaining wall in so we can stay within the property boundaries to make it work.
Is it I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is it a fair appraisal that there may not be another way to make this a buildable property?
The engineers looked at just about every other way, and this is about the only way to do it.
Okay.
The lot is just that small.
Okay, questions? Jim, Tommy, Noel, Greg?
My only thing, and this might be out of bounds for the board, but again, looking down the road, if this area is a area that's in the floodplain, and you have a lot of properties that are going to need a lot of revisions long term. Does this solution right now begin the process of having cookie cutter properties along that area, and each one's going to look differently? And would it be something where we should recommend, something to council to look at this area and say, hey, let's develop a larger strategy in terms of what developing this area should look like long term? I don't know if that's what we can vote on today, but we can at least recommend that. And again, I'd love to hear other people's thoughts on that.
Well, I can comment on that a little bit. I think there was a significant amount of flooding in that area, and this property was condemned along with other ones. They were condemned for a variety of reasons. Some are for water heaters or furnaces, or some are more serious, like structural issues, like this one was. So I don't know that there's an overall master plan. I think the city is working on grants and opportunities to maybe find funding to acquire properties that are in flood-prone areas. However, in a case like this, they're certainly entitled to pursue rebuilding. They just happen to need a variance in both cases to do that.
Yeah, and that makes sense to me. I'm just saying, if one property is granted a variance, does that then impact, and start to set that precedent that we don't like, that all of a sudden this property is here, this property's here, this property here? Is there an overall more holistic approach to looking at this whole area and saying, hey, look, this is probably what needs to happen over here to make this work? Or is it just a case-by-case situation?
In my opinion, from staff, it's a case-by-case circumstance.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
Although certainly, the city, its planners, the council can imagine and think about future strategies to deal with floodplains. I think that's something every community should be looking at in terms of their flood-prone areas and come up with some planning. But I think we've got a consist on the action proposed before us.
My vote is to up. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, Paul, can you restate the requested variances again? Because I can't look at the item.
Sure. There are two variances. One is the floodplain fill. Because it cannot provide 15 feet of fill 1 foot above the base flood, out 15 feet around, they can use these retaining wall systems. And we did get concurrence from the DNR that is acceptable. They did review this plan. The other one is the retaining wall height. So when you reduce that fill to something less than 15, you go to a retaining wall system. The code stipulates that those retaining walls should not be greater than 2 feet in height, which encourages a stepped or terraced approach.
And in this case, we've seen that there's just no room on the north end of that lot to do it other than the way the petitioners proposed it here with a 4 foot. I'm comfortable with these two requested variances and would support their approval.
Yeah, I'm comfortable too. So a motion would be in order.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Seconded.
All right, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the variance for the property on Hartung Street. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Very good, 5-0. You have the variance.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck.
All right, we'll move on to the next item, which is the property on 827 9th Street. Paul, you want to set it up?
Sure. This is a property on 9th Street. The applicant recently acquired the property from the Redevelopment Authority. It's zoned very density residential, which is actually a multifamily zoning, but they obtained a conditional use permit to construct a single-family home on the lot. The issue here has to do with the side yard or corner side yard setback. They're meeting the front yard setback along 9th Street, but the problem is the setback along South Norwood. So we treat this lot as an infill lot. So what we typically do is look down the block, in this case down South Norwood, looking for an average of the homes in that particular block. So we kind of like to keep things in a line, so to speak. So they're meeting that setback, whatever that is on 9th Street, but the setback on South Norwood is rather generous, so they're not able to meet that setback. You can kind of see that from the setback or from the site plan here. So their proposal is reasonable. It just does not fit the corner side yard setback that goes down South Norwood Avenue.
Yeah, they're penalized by being on a corner and having to match up with everybody looking down Norwood. Any comments or questions, gentlemen?
No, my comment is this one seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah, I agree.
I'll motion to approve the variance.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the variance for the property on 9th Street. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Good. 5-0. We're good.
That might have been a record.
Yeah. Moving right along.
I gotta,
We have the property on South Ashland Avenue. You want to set us up, Paul?
Sure.
Jim, were you going to say something?
yeah, I gotta run and get some earphones because I'm gradually losing hearing. My hearing sucks anyway, excuse my expressions, but I'm gonna take me 1 minute to grab them.
Okay, that's fine.
While we're paused, I have an all staff meeting that I have to run in PM. So I'm hopeful that we'll be able to get through almost all of these. That first one took a little longer than I thought. So I apologize in advance if I have to duck out.
Okay.
I think we still have a quorum, so it should be okay.
Yep.
But if I leave at like 6:59, it wasn't I getting kicked off. I have to go run that meeting.
Fair enough, Tommy.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, now I don't hear anything.
You back, Jim?
Oh yeah, I'm back.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh,
Go
this
ahead,
really,
Paul.
this really helps. Okay.
The property located at 710 South Ashland, low-density residential property zoning. They propose to construct emergency access. That porch access encroaches within the side yard setback, and that's the reason for the variance request tonight.
All right, I think we'll hear from the applicant now on, I understand this is already there. And I'd like to hear from the applicant on why it was put in and what are the implications.
Vincent, are you there? Vincent, can you hear us?
Yeah, he's up and he's gesturing.
Hello?
Yeah, we're listening to Sonia's iPad, I believe.
We can't hear you.
Nope. Oh, she's muted. Oh, that's her video. She might not have any sound.
It's possible they didn't connect with the audio. They may have only
Yeah.
connected with the video.
Because she just has video on here.
Oh,
Can we table this one and ask them to relog back in and go to the next one? And if they get back on, come back to it?
Yeah,
Sure.
let's.
Do we have to motion for that or anything? Or
No, we can come back to that.
Should we give them some instruction, maybe?
yeah, I don't know if anybody wants to vocalize, or I'm assuming they can hear to log off and log back on.
Yeah.
Sonia's iPad, if you can hear us, log back off and then follow the instructions to come back on. And we'll move to the next one and we'll take you up when we come back on.
Just make sure to join with audio and join with the video.
Right. Let's move on to the property on St. Charles Drive. You want to set this one up, Paul?
Yes. Yeah, 887 St. Charles. This is a expansion of a single-family home in a low-density residential district. I believe they're adding a bathroom addition to the rear of the home. There is a 25-foot rear yard setback, and they're encroaching within that setback. And that, again, that's the reason for the variance request. You can kind of see the addition here that's going on. This is the existing footprint of the home. 25-foot setback, but they're much closer than that with the addition.
So just by the dimensions on here, it looks like they want to get to within 9 feet of the back lot line.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, can we hear from the applicant on what's involved here?
Yes, Phil with Classic Renovations here. They would like to remodel the den that's existing and then bump out with a bathroom so that their elderly parents can move in with them. That's what they were proposing. The house is basically right at the 25-foot mark, so we're already at a hardship there. Do you want to chime in?
Sure. So I'm David. I'm the homeowner, myself and my wife. So greetings to the group. Thanks for your time tonight. So my elderly in-laws, ages 89 and almost 91, in a 2-story home in Milwaukee. We want to have a place for them to come and to stay and to live with us. So as Phil already said, converting our den in the back of the house to a bedroom and adding on then a walk-in closet and a full bath for their convenience. So that is the goal of the project. The house behind us that bumps up is probably about 70 feet away. I did speak with those neighbors yesterday at their door, and they have no problem with it. And the neighbors on either side of us have no problem either.
Okay, I think this looks pretty straightforward. The lot is small and constrained. And like you say, Reverend Hatch, at least you're already at 25. So anything you do from here is going to require impinging on that 25-foot setback. Right. Any questions? Tommy, Noel, Greg, Jim?
I have a question on what that red line is. It's on the other property, running vertically up and down on the view we're seeing now.
I believe it's maybe a section line. It's part of the land surveying system network, so to speak.
Okay.
It's not related to the lot itself or any
Okay,
impact.
so it's not a right of way or a.
No.
Okay.
Here. It's
Yeah.
Alderdorf.
Yes.
I just wanted to say that I'm here in support of this and that no one has called me to object to it. I just wanted to make sure to say that. Thank you.
Good. Thank you for reminding me that you're here. I saw you, but I trust my guy on the right, and he isn't here. So
My
All
only
righty.
comment is these tend to be that kind of where the wind blows kind of things. My only comment on this is it makes sense for this property owner. It makes sense with the property owner behind them. Everybody's in agreement. But one of the things we learned was trying not to focus so much on that, and this decision lives with the property for the next, 100 years. And so that would be the only thing that's kind of making me, but I could be swayed pretty easily. It makes sense. Again, there's a significant amount of, gapping between the back of the house and the next house. And it sounds like they've already spoken to those people and they seem to be okay. But I do think that's just something worth calling out. That it's the property, you know, and it lives with them beyond the owners.
Mhm.
Tommy, my thinking on it is the hardship. If you look at the backyard, is how small it is compared to some of these other yards where they're built, you know, the two over. There's nowhere else to go for them. And in addition, you have that property that's farther back behind them that it's not getting close to them. So I think the hardship's just a small backyard.
Yeah.
And under that basis, we can approve it.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree.
I think we'll probably all vote together. Just a call out.
Yeah, it's a fair comment. I think the size of the lot kind of explains the whole issue here.
Yeah.
And the shape of it too.
We still have 9 feet. You know what I mean? It's not obviously 25, but it's still some gapping with that other backyard as well.
Right. A motion would be in order.
I'll make a motion to approve the requested variance.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the variance for the property on St. Charles Drive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0 is the way I hear it.
I was going to comment too, just the fact that there was a wooded lot behind, I think was part of it for me too. If it had been house to house, that would have been a different consideration for me, but there's a significant buffer between those properties.
Yes.
If I could jump in.
Between houses.
If I could just jump in and say, we can't see that house behind us. The woods is so dense. And we can barely see that house in the winter time when there's no leaves. So thank you very, very much.
Yeah. Sure. Thank you.
Good luck.
Good luck.
I don't know if you saw, there was the chat that came through from Sonia, that group. Did you guys see that?
Yep.
Do we want to try and address that?
Yes, if she can call in on a cell phone, or she wants us to call her, is that possible?
It looks like no one's there though. I mean, if you look at her screen, I don't know what we do with that.
If worst case scenario, we get to the end, we can always just let them come back next month, correct?
Yeah, we can.
Yes.
If they don't get on the call before the end of their business, we should just table that.
Right, 'cause it's already construction that's done, right? It's just more of a violation that they're trying to overcome. So it's not like they're waiting on building.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, let's go on to the Langlade Avenue property.
Oh, wait, they might be in.
They're back.
Hello, it's Sonia here.
This is Vincent, Sonia Holtz. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Vincent, go ahead. We're going to jump right
All
away
right.
to your item. Go ahead.
All right, then number 5, the appeal to be allowed to remain as I have directed that particular stairway that is encroaching into the building property line by 2 feet 6 inches or so. So I would like to request, since it's a vacant lot next to us, and the property it is actually was built 80 odd years ago, with that fence being there the way it was built by the owners, to be allowed to remain the way I have it.
Okay, sir, are you saying that the construction that you have done regarding that needs this variance is really a replacement and has always been something there?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
About a year and a half ago, Section 8 came to inspect the facilities. They decided that in order for me to continue to rent to the people receiving aid from Section 8, I must build a access to the second floor. Number one, because of the safety, and number two, that the tenant will have to go right around the building, all the way to the front, in order to access the second story. Okay. If you see the layout of the adjacent property, you will find that we share a driveway.
Yes.
And the properties that are exactly the same width and length of the three adjacent lots. When I posed for a permit to do some repairs to the back, I was never aware that there was a restriction to set up a stairway for an exit emergency. I failed to have obtained a permit at that time, and I rushed to qualify for Section 8, and I built the facility. I do apologize, and then I am asking you if, in view of the fact that the city owns the property next, and we have mature trees, and I built it engineering-wise solid to be allowed to remain the way it is. The second option, perhaps I would like to offer, is if the city would allow me to buy 6 feet from the property line as it is. So I will build a new fence, private fence, and then I could remain the way it was. And then I will have more than 6 feet between the new property line and the face of the building. And in between that, it will be the way that I have built the way it is.
Paul, do you want to comment on the status of that lot on the corner?
Yes, sir.
I do not have direct knowledge of that property.
It is in an empty lot for the time I own that property over 30 years now, and it has been vacant throughout the whole times. It's a corner lot owned by the city.
It's probably been vacant since the Mason Street overpass was constructed.
Yeah, yeah.
Correct, sir.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, questions, Jim?
Yeah, just
Tommy,
clarifying the
Greg?
variance for me. Is it just the setback or is there other issues?
No, sir. No, sir. Everything else is kosher.
Paul, you confirm that, Paul, that it's just the setback on the side?
Correct.
Yes, sir. And I have submitted detailed drawing with their specific values.
It's considered part and parcel to the principal structure, so that's why the setback is kicking in.
Correct, sir.
And Paul, I'm a little lost right now in terms of what the setback should be and where are we at now with what's been constructed, Paul?
The setback by the
Vincent, if Paul can answer that, that would be great. Thank you.
is 6 feet. The outermost north post, it is 2 foot 7 inches from the face of the property line fence. As you can see it, perhaps you will have to expand the view.
Paul, can you jump in?
I think the home itself is built at a 6 foot side yard setback. There's 6
Okay.
feet between the structure and the property line.
Correct,
That's
sir.
technically not compliant to current modern day codes. So that emergency access or secondary access is encroaching well within that side yard setback. So for one, it's not compliant with the principal is not compliant with the current setback, as well as the stairway is not compliant.
Okay, thank you.
So could I expect an answer to do it, anything that you deem necessary?
I think we understand the question.
The question it is a violation. The variance, after consideration by you gentlemen, will determine where I have to remove it completely and deny those people the access to that and an emergency porch in case of an accident. I would like to dearly request you to consider those circumstances and allow me to remain violating, but under the consideration of yourself, be allowed to lead that stairway the way I have built it.
Fair enough.
We got it.
Do we have a motion?
Thank you, sir.
I'd just like to comment. I mean, I think that the petitioner should reach out to, the planning department and ask about the possibility of purchasing or just having deeded to him some of the side yard of that adjacent property. I doubt that the city's ever going to look for putting a house or any building on that corner of Mason and Ashland. And so, they might have somebody willing to take on some or all that property, and would recommend strongly to the petitioner that they reach out to the planning department about that. I do not relish the thought of causing somebody to lose their eligibility for rental assistance or maybe ultimately displace a renter because they cannot afford to rent an apartment because of the Section 8 rules. So I'm inclined to do this, although at the same time I've got a countervailing, desire not to ratify things that have been done without proper permits. I think in this case, I would be, given the fact that the vacant lot next door is probably never going to be developed, I'm willing to support the variance here and would move to do so if I think I've got folks who will vote with me.
Thank you very much, sir.
We have a second.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the variance request for the property on Ashland Avenue.
Don, may I make a comment or a question before we vote?
Yes, you may.
I like the idea that Noel and everybody's proposing, but since it's already built, is it something where the board would be willing to consider some sort of letter? We ask sometimes for neighbors to produce comments or thoughts. And since this is owned property that Noel is saying is not going to be developed, that we could say, come back next month and with a letter from the city or something saying that they're okay with that encroachment, since that gives me a hard yes on all this. But if the votes are already there, no point. But to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Let's see how the votes go.
But then
Thank you, gentlemen.
Vote.
Regarding,
We got to vote yet.
regarding the motion before us, all in favor?
Aye.
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 And one opposed, Tommy?
I'm staying.
Abstain. Okay, 4-0. You have your variance, sir.
Thank you. May God bless you and stay healthy.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Finally, the property on Clay Street.
No, I think we skipped one, didn't we?
Did we?
Langlade, I think.
I skipped right past Langlade. All right, let's go back to that. Remember, I'm the oldest one on your committee, so I'm allowed this. You want to review where we are here, Paul?
Sure. 1649 Langlade, property, west side property, single family, low density residential use, corner lot in this case. They'd like to remove their existing garage and construct a larger garage. The issue here is going to be with the rear yard setback. They're showing about a 15-foot setback. They need ideally, again, 25 feet for a rear yard setback. Because the garage is attached to the principal structure, it's part of the principal structure.
How does this need a variance, Paul?
Well, because it's rebuilding something so it's like the sign, it's not in code, and then they're going to rebuild it, right? Right, Paul?
Correct.
My only question on this one, when I was looking at it earlier, is does the adding the front of the garage have any issues with the setbacks with the current driveway that's in, and by approving it, does it create another problem?
I don't believe so, no, not from looking at the application. No, it's behind, again, the principal facade of the building, so I don't see that being a front yard issue. It's more just a rear yard issue.
Oh, okay, I got it now. He's building in front, but he was non-conforming in the back anyway. And he's gonna tear it down, build a new. Okay, this seems pretty straightforward to me. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I motion to approve unless we want to hear from the candidate.
I don't think we need to if we're trying to move along, Tommy.
Yeah, I motion to approve the variance.
I'm sorry, what's the variance again? Can we just restate that?
It's a rear yard variance, rear yard setback variance. But
So it's going, how much is it encroaching on the rear yard?
It's about 15 feet.
he's not building new into the backyard. It's just there.
All right, got it. I'm in favor.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Yes. We have a motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? You got your variance.
They're not even.
Mr. Dorn, if you were on, you're lucked out. You didn't even have to talk. Now we can go to Clay Street.
I might make it.
You might. We're trying. Want to set us up, Paul?
Sure, one more time. 744 South Clay, single-family home, low-density residential property, corner lot again. They're looking to construct a deck and a fence into the into the interior side yard. That deck is encroaching on the side yard setback. So again, because this is part of the principal dwelling, it's counted for setback purposes. I believe it's a two-story house, so an 8-foot setback would be required in this case.
Okay.
And is it on the side, on the cul-de-sac side, Paul, that they're looking to do it?
On the other side, it appears, on the north side.
It's that red mark.
Oh, I see it.
Dashes.
Yep.
Do they have two driveways?
It appears they do, yes.
Share one apparently with the other person.
Is this person on the line? Because I'm looking at our participants and.
Nope.
I mean, is this person even here?
No.
Doesn't appear.
What do you
so.
want to do with that, Chairman?
We don't know if the last guy was here
The
either.
last guy wasn't here either.
Well, we didn't figure that out till after the fact.
One minute with me. So if
I will argue for tabling, if we're going to say no to something and the petitioner's not here, but if the petitioner's not here and we're okay with it, I don't see any reason to hold up for a yes.
Right.
if I'm
So where are we? I'm okay with this.
I would like to hear more discussion from the applicant. That's me.
Okay, then we should table it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, 'cause what about the neighbor? Did they get approval from them?
so I motion to table to next month.
I already did that.
Oh, I second then you.
All right. All in favor of tabling it?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye. Okay.
Motion to close the floor of discussion.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're
We
done.
did it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, Tom.